3 days ago, Ashley Flynn was murdered in her Tip City home. Tonight, police announced that they have made an arrest in connection to her death.
Police said this evening that Ashley's husband, 39-year-old Caleb Flynn, is in jail and charged in connection with her murder. Caleb Flynn is charged with 1 count of homicide, 2 counts of felonious assault, and 2 counts of tampering with evidence.
37-year-old Ashley Flynn was found dead in her home early on Monday morning. Originally, police called it a burglary gone wrong, but it was later determined her death was a targeted attack. The whole story has captured the attention of people not just in Tip City, but across the Miami Valley.
Picture a quiet neighborhood. It's the middle of the night. The streets are empty. Most people in Tip City, Ohio, are deep asleep, including 2 little girls tucked in their beds inside a house on Cunningham Court. It's the kind of neighborhood where nothing bad is supposed to happen. The kind of place where people leave their porch lights on and wave to each other in the mornings. Peaceful, normal, safe. But at 2:30 in the morning on February 16, 2026, a phone call shattered all of that. A man called 911 in a panic. His voice was frantic. He said there had been a break-in. He said someone had gotten into the house. He said his wife had been shot. Police rushed to the scene, their sirens cutting through the silent night, lights flashing down streets that had never seen anything like this before. When they walked through the door of that home, they found 37-year-old Ashley Flynn lying in her bed. She had been shot multiple times in the head. She was gone. There was nothing anyone could do for her. Her husband, 39-year-old Caleb Flynn, was standing there in the house. Their 2 young daughters, their babies, were in their rooms, unharmed, but now growing up in a world without their mother. Think about that for a moment. 2 little girls, asleep while all of this happened. And when they woke up, their lives would never be the same again. The police logged the call as a burglary and shooting, an intruder story. A tragedy caused by a stranger who came in the night and left before anyone could catch him. That was the story Caleb Flynn told when he picked up that phone and dialed 911. But here is the thing about the truth. It has a way of refusing to stay buried. It leaves traces. It leaves clues. It speaks even when the people who know it say nothing. Within just 72 hours of Ashley Flynn being found dead in her own bedroom, the entire story of a burglary gone wrong had completely fallen apart. The police were no longer looking for a mysterious stranger. They were looking much closer to home. And what they found, what the evidence was quietly telling them from the very beginning, would lead them straight back to the man who made that 911 call. Caleb Flynn was arrested and charged with the murder of his own wife. This is the story of Ashley Flynn, a woman who spent her life pouring into her community, her students, her family, and her faith. A woman who deserved so much better than what happened to her in that house. A woman whose story the world needs to hear. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about who she really was. When something terrible happens, it is easy to get lost in the crime, the evidence, the charges, the courtroom drama. But before any of that, there was a person. A real, living, breathing human being with a life full of purpose and love. And her name was Ashley Flynn. Ashley grew up in Tip City, Ohio. She went to Tippecanoe High School and graduated in 2006. If you had known her back then, you would have seen a young woman with something genuine about her, a warmth that people tend to remember long after they've forgotten everything else. She went on to study at Lee University in Tennessee, a Christian liberal arts school, and when she was done, she came back home. She came back to the place she loved, to the people she cared about. And she got to work. She became a substitute teacher for Tip City schools. She coached middle school volleyball at Tippecanoe Middle School. She taught at a place called LifeWise Academy, a nonprofit that brings Bible-based education to public school students off campus. Every single one of these roles involved children. Every single one of them involved showing up, being present, and caring, genuinely caring, about the young lives in front of her. That tells you something about a person. You don't spend your days coaching kids and teaching and substituting in classrooms because it's glamorous or because it pays well. You do it because you believe it matters. Because you believe people matter. After Ashley died, the school district spoke about her publicly. Her colleagues spoke about her. Her friends spoke about her. And the word that kept coming up over and over again was the same kindness. She was kind. She made people feel seen. She had a warmth that stayed with you. At home, she was a wife and a mother. She and Caleb had built a life together in Tip City. They had 2 daughters. 2 girls who looked up to their mom, who learned from her, who needed her. The whole family, all 4 of them, were inside that house on Cunningham Court the night she was killed. Think about the life Ashley was living. She was 37 years old. She was coaching kids. She was teaching faith. She was raising daughters. She was doing everything right. She was exactly where she was supposed to be, at home, in her bed, safe with her family. And yet, there is a reason this story hits so hard. It is because Ashley Flynn was not a stranger. She was the kind of person who lived down your street, who smiled at you in the school hallway, who showed up for people without being asked. She was real. She was good. And she was taken from this world in the most unimaginable way. Now, let us talk about the man who was there that night. Before February 16, 2026, if you had looked up Caleb Flynn, you might have recognized him. Not from the neighborhood. Not from church, though he spent years leading worship and pastoring music in that world. You might have recognized him from television. In 2013, Caleb Flynn appeared on season 12 of American Idol. He stood in front of the cameras and the judges and the whole country, and he talked about his faith. He talked about his marriage. He came across as a devoted man, devoted to God, devoted to his wife, devoted to the life he was building. That image stuck. People remember the things you say when the cameras are rolling. After American Idol, Caleb continued working in music ministry. He spent over a decade as a worship director and music pastor, leading congregations in song, standing at the front of churches, being a familiar and trusted face in faith communities. Eventually, he transitioned out of full-time ministry and moved into sales and commercial interiors work. A career change. A new chapter. On the surface, he was a husband and father living a quiet life in Tip City with his wife and 2 daughters. And then came the early morning of February 16th. Caleb Flynn was the one who picked up the phone. He was the one who called 911. He was the one who told the dispatcher that someone had broken in, that an intruder had come into the house and shot Ashley. He described the scene. He said he did not know if the intruder was still inside. His voice carried the sound of a man in crisis, a man who had just witnessed something horrifying. Police came. They secured the house. They found Ashley dead. They found Caleb and the children. And in those first hours, the scene was treated as a potential home invasion turned fatal. But investigators are trained to look beyond what they are told. They are trained to let the evidence speak. And the evidence in that house on Cunningham Court had a great deal to say. It started speaking the moment detectives began to walk through that home carefully, not as first responders but as investigators, looking at every corner, every door, every object out of place, every object that should have been out of place but wasn't. And what they found did not match the story Caleb Flynn had told. A 911 call is just words. Words can be chosen. Words can be rehearsed. But a crime scene is harder to control. It holds the truth in ways that human beings, no matter how careful, cannot always anticipate. The evidence was there, waiting, and the detectives found it. There is a reason investigators spend so much time at a crime scene. It is because a scene tells a story, its own story, separate from anything a witness or a suspect says. And the story that the house on Cunningham Court told was very different from the one Caleb Flynn described on that 911 call. Let's walk through what police found. When they looked at the side door of the house, one of the entry points that could have been used by an alleged intruder, they found something that stopped them cold. A large refrigerator was pushed up against the door from the inside, blocking it. Think about that. If someone had broken in through that door, how did the refrigerator get there? An intruder does not stop in the middle of a crime to rearrange the furniture. That refrigerator was placed there by someone who was already inside. Someone who wanted it to look like the door had been blocked from the outside. It was one of the first signs that this scene had been arranged. Then there was the pickup truck. Caleb Flynn had previously told investigators that he kept his handgun stored in the center console of his truck. When police examined the vehicle, They found the center console open. Now, a lot can be read into an open console. But in the context of everything else, the position of the refrigerator, the lack of any outside suspect, the inconsistencies in the overall scene, it became another piece of a picture that was slowly coming into focus. Police also documented what they described as staging. Items in the home had been placed or arranged in a way that was meant to suggest a burglary had taken place. But investigators who have seen genuine burglary scenes know what they look like. They know the randomness of it, the desperation, the trail that a real intruder leaves. What they saw in the Flynn home did not match that pattern. And then there was the absence of anyone else. Despite a full investigation, police found no evidence of a third party anywhere in or around that home. No footprints. No witnesses. No one reported seeing a suspicious person in the neighborhood. No independent suspect emerged. None. The search for an intruder produced nothing, because there was no intruder. 2 spent shell casings were recovered near Ashley's bed. She had been shot multiple times in the head. This was not a random act of violence by a passing stranger. This was deliberate. This was close. This was personal. On February 19th, 3 days after Ashley Flynn was found dead, Caleb Flynn was arrested. He was charged with murder. He was also charged with 2 counts of felonious assault with a deadly weapon and 2 counts of tampering with evidence, because prosecutors believe he did not just kill his wife. They believe he then worked to cover it up. The staging, the refrigerator, the open console, the 911 call, all of it, prosecutors say, was part of a plan. On February 20th, 2026, just 4 days after Ashley Flynn was found dead, Caleb Flynn stood in a courtroom. He was wearing jail clothes. He had gone from being a man who called 911 in a panic to a man standing before a judge facing a murder charge. He pleaded not guilty. He told the judge he was not a flight risk. He said he wanted to be there for his daughters, the same daughters who had been asleep in that house when their mother was killed. The judge set his bond at $2 million. A preliminary hearing was scheduled to determine what would come next. His defense attorneys spoke up. The attorney raised a concern that defense lawyers often raise in cases like this, that when police cannot find an outside suspect, they tend to focus on whoever is closest to the victim. In this case, the husband. The attorney warned against rushing to judgment. He argued that a fast investigation does not always mean an accurate one. It is a fair point to raise. The justice system exists precisely to test these things, to hold evidence up to scrutiny, to demand proof beyond a reasonable doubt, to protect people from being convicted on circumstance alone. But here is what makes this case feel so heavy. As of the latest reporting, no motive has been publicly stated. We do not know, officially, why this allegedly happened. We do not know if there were problems in the marriage. We do not know if there were financial pressures or secrets, or something that broke beyond repair in the months or years before that February morning. That piece, the why, remains missing from the public record. Forensic details that could answer critical questions have also not been released. Gunshot residue testing, DNA evidence, fingerprint analysis, surveillance footage, if any existed inside or outside the home. These are the things that could tell us definitively what happened in that house between midnight and 2:30 in the morning. Those answers are still locked inside the investigation. The trial has not started. The legal process is still ahead. But behind all of it, behind the charges and the hearings and the evidence and the courtroom arguments, there are 2 little girls who went asleep one night and woke up without a mother. 2 children who will carry February 16th, 2026 with them for the rest of their lives. No courtroom verdict changes what they lost. No sentence given or not given brings Ashley Flynn back to the people who needed her. Ashley was 37 years old. She was a teacher. She was a coach. She was a mother raising her daughters in the same community where she herself grew up. She spent her days investing in children who were not even her own. She was, by every account, exactly the kind of person the world needs more of. And she was killed in her own bed. If this story has taught us anything, it is this: the people we love are not guaranteed to us. The ordinary nights, the quiet houses, the children asleep in the next room, none of it is as permanent as we want it to be. Hold the people in your life a little closer. Tell them what they mean to you, because Ashley Flynn deserved to hear it too. The truth is still unfolding. We will continue to follow this case.